Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony of the Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was silent until she spoke. As former Danity Kane singer Dawn Richard took the stand, the air grew thick with tension. She wasn't just another celebrity witness. She was a woman who had seen too much. What followed was a chilling account of a violent outburst, one involving eggs, a skillet, and a frightened Cassie Ventura curled in the fetal position. By the time she was done, Diddy's carefully composed image had shattered. He leaned in close to his lawyers, whispering, pacing, and, according to eyewitnesses, visibly losing it. This isn't just a trial. It's a reckoning. And the first week alone has been a hurricane of emotional testimony, buried trauma, and bombshell revelations. From audio recordings to the haunting testimonies of former collaborators, we're diving into everything that's unraveling, and how Diddy's empire might not survive the storm. When Dawn Richard walked into the courtroom, you could feel the air shift. Cameras didn't flash, but every pair of eyes, jurors, attorneys, even Diddy himself, locked onto her. For years, Dawn had been known to the world as one of the breakout stars from Making the Band and a former member of Danity Kane. But in this room, she wasn't a pop singer. She was a witness. And her truth was about to set the entire trial ablaze. Her demeanor was calm, but heavy. She took a long pause before answering her first question. And then, like a floodgate breaking, it all came out. The first thing she described? A chilling incident from 2009. According to her, Diddy came downstairs in his Los Angeles mansion in a frenzied state, searching for his phone. Cassie was nearby. She said he didn't ask, he demanded. And when she didn't respond fast enough, he allegedly hurled a skillet full of eggs at her. Gasps echoed in the gallery. She tried to cover her face. He was yelling at her, and I remember her curling up like a child in the fetal position. And that was just the beginning. She claimed that after Cassie was on the floor, Diddy attempted to kick her before grabbing her by the neck and dragging her up the stairs. Moments later, Dawn said she heard glass shatter. It wasn't just a sound, she said. It was fear. You could feel it in the walls. This wasn't Dawn speculating. She wasn't sharing a rumor. She was there. She saw it, and she said it under oath. Her testimony became the most visceral and disturbing account yet. A first-person narrative of one of the most powerful men in music, allegedly lashing out in private, while living a public life of wealth and status. What stunned observers even more than the skillet incident was the pattern Dawn laid out. This wasn't a one-time outburst, she said. This was a culture, a power structure, a hidden empire of fear. Behind the flashing lights of red carpets and hit records, there was a man who, according to her, controlled every detail of the women in his circle. And Cassie, most of all. She needed permission for everything, Dawn claimed. Where to sit, what to say in interviews, what to wear, even what to eat during long studio sessions. According to Dawn, it went further than micromanagement, it was psychological warfare. Diddy allegedly created a dynamic where women were both idolized and humiliated. She recalled him calling meetings while wearing nothing but his underwear, speaking down to women in front of entire teams, and forcing uncomfortable group rehearsals that would run for hours with little food or rest. But it was Cassie who took the brunt of it, Dawn testified. She wasn't allowed to leave the room without checking in. She wasn't allowed to decline a task. He'd punish her by cutting her from appearances, canceling her performances, or just ghosting her for days while she waited for a phone call. One of the most chilling details was the way Dawn described Diddy isolating Cassie. She said Cassie was discouraged from calling family and friends, that her phone would be taken for security reasons, that if she expressed frustration, Diddy would tell her, "You don't know how good you have it." As Dawn spoke, reporters in the room noted Diddy's body language. At first, composed, then arms crossed, then whispering furiously to his legal team. According to a source inside the courtroom, his lawyers passed him a pen and paper as he wrote something down, shaking his head. Whatever it was, the mask was cracking. The control he once commanded seemed to be slipping in real time. As if Dawn Richards' testimony wasn't explosive enough, the prosecution followed it with something no one expected: an audio recording. Not of a phone call, not a voicemail, but of Cassie, caught in a moment of desperation, allegedly confronting one of Diddy's trusted associates who had secretly recorded footage of her in the middle of one of the infamous freak-offs. The courtroom fell silent as Cassie's voice came through the speakers. Her tone wasn't calm. It was frantic, furious, pleading. You could hear the panic in her breath, the urgency in her voice. "Delete it," she reportedly said. "I swear to God, if you don't, I'll—" The sentence cut off, but the emotion didn't. Even without hearing what came next, the threat was palpable. And the fear behind it was even louder. Legal experts watching the case said the tape could be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it portrayed Cassie as emotional, unstable, perhaps even dangerous. But on the other hand, it showed something deeper: the psychological torment of someone pushed to their breaking point. A person who had endured years of humiliation and was finally lashing out, not for revenge, but for survival. The defense team tried to object. They argued the recording lacked context, but the judge allowed it to stay. And as it played, eyes darted between the audio device and Diddy himself. His reaction was instant. Witnesses described him as visibly distressed, his jaw clenched, his lips pressed into a line. He turned away from the screen at one point, hand on his forehead. Some say he looked like a man hearing something he thought would never reach a courtroom. This wasn't just another bombshell. This was a window into how far Cassie had been pushed. It wasn't only the allegations that were damning now, it was the lived emotional wreckage that echoed through her voice. The audio painted a picture no photo or document ever could. And it was a picture that made the jury lean in, and Diddy pull back. Part of what made Dawn Richards' testimony so powerful wasn't just her presence. It was how she made the courtroom feel the fear. She circled back to the now infamous skillet incident, clarifying that this wasn't a spontaneous moment of rage. She described it as part of a long chain of calculated intimidation. Diddy didn't just lose his temper, she said, looking straight at the jury. He planned how he reacted. You could tell he'd done it before. Dawn explained that the morning of the incident, there had been visible tension in the house. Cassie seemed nervous. Diddy was stomping around, frustrated over a misplaced phone. The moment he realized Cassie might have moved it, something shifted in him. He screamed her name so loud the walls shook, Dawn recalled. Cassie came down from upstairs, still in pajamas, and he immediately accused her of stealing it. Then, without hesitation, he threw the pan. The room fell silent as Dawn paused. She stared at the floor, composed, but you could see the emotion simmering just beneath. He threw a skillet, a real one, not a lightweight pot or some kitchen prop. A cast iron skillet, still warm, full of food, and it hit her. She continued, describing Cassie's collapse to the ground, her arms instinctively shielding her head as Diddy allegedly stood over her, shouting, Dawn said she instinctively took a step forward, but froze. Fear rooted her in place. He turned and looked at me, and I swear I've never seen eyes like that. Not angry, empty, like I wasn't even there. Then he allegedly dragged Cassie upstairs. Glass shattered minutes later. One of the prosecutors asked Dawn why she didn't intervene. Her answer hit like a sledgehammer. If I did, I honestly believe I wouldn't be here right now. By the time Dawn stepped down, the prosecution's narrative had taken firm root. Diddy wasn't just controlling. He was allegedly violent, emotionally manipulative, and capable of psychological warfare. But the defense wasn't going to let it stand uncontested. The following day, they launched a relentless cross-examination of Cassie, designed to unravel her credibility. They started by attacking her mental health history. PTSD, rehab, and counseling sessions were all dragged into the spotlight, with the defense insinuating that these were signs of instability, not trauma. But Cassie didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned into it. "Yes, I went to therapy," she said, "because I needed to heal from him." They brought up a past rape allegation Cassie had once made against someone else, one that never resulted in charges, and implied that she had a pattern of false claims. Again, Cassie held firm. "It wasn't false," she said. "It was just ignored." Then came the texts, hundreds of them, some romantic, some raw, some explicit. The defense cherry-picked lines that painted her as needy, obsessed, even willing. "You said here, 'I'll do anything you want. Just don't leave me.' What does that mean?" Cassie didn't hesitate. "It means I was brainwashed. That's what abuse looks like." The court was still. Even the stenographer reportedly paused for a moment. They pushed harder, asked her about a FaceTime she allegedly took from her now-husband while in bed with Diddy. They said that proved she wasn't a victim, that she had options. Cassie looked the defense attorney dead in the eye. "I didn't have options. I had obligations. I was owned." Observers noted how Diddy reacted during this exchange. Shoulders tight, jaw clenched, whispering intensely to his lawyers as if trying to regain control of a narrative spiraling away from him. It was clear, whatever strategy his legal team had counted on, Cassie wasn't cracking under pressure. In fact, she was rising. Then came the audio. It was the most emotionally jarring moment of the week, and it didn't come from a witness stand. It came from a recording, one the prosecution claimed had been obtained from an ex-employee of Diddy, who once worked security during his parties. The tape? A heated, frantic voicemail from Cassie to one of Diddy's inner circle. "Delete that video," Cassie said, "or I swear to God, I'll end you." The courtroom leaned in. The audio revealed more than threats. Cassie was crying, hyperventilating, swearing. Her voice cracked under pressure, barely coherent at moments. It wasn't about power. It was about panic. The video she was referring to, allegedly a recording of her engaging in a freak-off with Diddy and a male escort, had become a form of blackmail, the prosecution suggested. Not just against her, but against many women in Diddy's orbit. The tapes were insurance. Cassie, prosecutors argued, had learned of the video's existence after leaving Diddy, and this was her raw reaction. A woman trying to destroy evidence that had been used to humiliate and control her for years. The defense objected. "Out of context," they said, but the judge allowed it. After the recording ended, Cassie remained calm, even after the defense tried to spin her as aggressive. "I was desperate," she said, "because if that footage ever went public, it wouldn't just destroy my life, it would end everything I worked to reclaim." One juror was reportedly seen wiping their eyes. The reaction in the courtroom was immediate. Diddy turned pale. His foot tapped incessantly under the table. He leaned into his lawyer's ear, muttering for several minutes before taking off his glasses and covering his eyes. His empire was built on control, and for the first time, control was slipping from his hands. If there was a theme emerging from the trial's first week, it was this. The man the world saw, mogul, philanthropist, music titan, was allegedly very different from the man behind closed doors. And for the first time, the courtroom was becoming a place where the facade cracked wide open. Throughout the week, witnesses didn't just describe moments of anger or abuse. They described systems, a calculated world of emotional domination, where affection was used as a weapon and loyalty was bought, not earned. Multiple people close to Diddy painted the same picture. A man obsessed with image, terrified of losing control, and willing to go to disturbing lengths to protect his power. A former assistant who testified under the alias Monica described what it was like to work for Diddy. She spoke of strange rules, like not making eye contact unless spoken to, and of being instructed to lie to Cassie about Diddy's whereabouts. She said she once overheard him telling a staff member to clean the girl up after a party, referring to a visibly intoxicated woman who was allegedly passed out in a hotel suite. Monica also recalled an incident where Cassie confronted Diddy in front of staff about being forced to participate in another freak-off. Diddy allegedly laughed in her face and said, "You belong to me." Everyone froze. Cassie walked away, tears running down her face. These weren't just isolated stories. They formed a narrative of coercion disguised as charisma. Outside the courtroom, media outlets began pulling clips from Diddy's past interviews. Times when he joked about partying, about wild nights, about bad boy for life. But seen through the lens of the trial, those clips suddenly didn't feel like playful anecdotes. They felt like confessions hiding in plain sight. Legal analysts noted that while the defense tried to argue Cassie's participation in these events was consensual, each new witness chipped away at the credibility of that claim. The sheer pattern of behavior, controlling texts, manipulated dynamics, the cycle of rage followed by lavish apologies, pointed to emotional captivity more than mutual romance. And that, prosecutors argued, was the most sinister part of it all. Not the overt violence, but the normalization of it. Cassie didn't stay because she liked it. She stayed because she forgot she had the option to leave. The jury watched these stories unfold like scenes from a psychological thriller. And Diddy, who once walked into court with confidence and swagger, now sat quietly, a man slowly being stripped of the image he built over decades. As the second week of the trial loomed, all eyes turned to one name, Aubrey O'Day. Long known for speaking her mind, the former Danity Kane singer had dropped bombshells about Diddy in the past, but never in a courtroom, and never under oath. Her testimony was expected to be explosive, and it didn't disappoint. Aubrey took the stand with visible emotion. She began by walking the court through her time on Making the Band, where Diddy allegedly ran the show like a military camp. Contestants were regularly humiliated, screamed at, and threatened with expulsion over minor infractions. It was, she claimed, less about building stars and more about breaking wills. But it was what happened after the cameras stopped rolling that left the courtroom stunned. Aubrey alleged that Diddy kept tabs on his female artists, especially Cassie. She said she once walked in on Diddy screaming at Cassie in a soundproof studio room, accusing her of being boring and killing his vibe. He allegedly threw a laptop at